Welcome back to the COS Business Podcast. My name is Andrew Hasley, and I am the host of the show. Today we have on Rachel Richards, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do and what you're all about?
Absolutely. I'm a lot of things. I am a former financial advisor. I'm a best-selling author of 2 books on finance. I'm a real estate investor with almost 40 units. And then, what people find most interesting about me is that last year at the age of 27, I quit my job and retired, and I'm now living off over $15,000 per month in passive income.
That is amazing.
It's a lot of fun.
Yes. Well, I can't wait to get more into that in this episode and really dive deep on that. But first, I'm going to read the ads, the sponsorships. The only sponsor that we have for today's episode is my video production company, the company that makes this podcast happen, the Vehement Visuals. That's the name. We really produce videos for businesses to help them. Businesses, coaches. I haven't done a video for an author yet, but it would be aligned with that because the things that we do, we don't just create pretty videos. Our goal is to strategize about how we can take what you do and implement video strategies into your process to help accelerate what you do. And
nice.
That's...
Video is where it's at. I know I need to do more of it.
No, for sure. Well, you got some video right here.
Perfect.
Yes. And so that's Vehement Visuals. That's my video production company. I've got to plug my company right here. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. And then I'd also like to promote the advertising space at the beginning of every episode. If you'd like me to read a 15-second to 30-second ad script at the beginning of every episode, we can make that happen. And just reach out to cosbusinesspodcast@gmail.com or email me directly or message me on wherever I'm available at.
Perfect.
Yeah, so that's the advertisements for today. And I'll roll the intro music and we'll get started.
Awesome.
This is a show where we have real conversations with entrepreneurs and business owners who are mostly in Colorado Springs doing things in the community of Colorado Springs. There's that space right there. It's timing.
I like that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So you are you live in Colorado Springs. You're kind of new to the city.
I'm new. Yes, we moved here 6 months ago, right in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes.
So that was interesting, and we love it here. Though we feel like we're kids in a playground, essentially.
Yes, that's how I feel. Yeah, I go hiking almost every single day.
Oh wow, that's so cool. I go like every weekend. I feel like that's a lot, but man, you're killing it.
Well, I don't really hike. It's more of like an exercise time. I don't consider that as a hike. I go to Palmer Park, so like it's not like hiking in the mountains. Mm-hmm. If I considered it a hiking, that would be. I guess I don't really hike.
I haven't been to Palmer Park, but I've heard it's really nice. I need to go there.
I love it. It's so like expansive, and I need to get a bike. I don't have a bike yet. I live in Colorado Springs. I don't have a bike. That must be like a sin or something.
So funny story. The first thing my husband did when he got out here is he bought a mountain bike.
Yes.
And so he was learning how to mountain bike. And on his second time, he had an accident. He went over the handlebars and he fractured his sternum.
Oh, no.
Isn't that crazy? Yes. He's fine now. He didn't need surgery. He recovered fine. But yeah, I was like, of course that would happen to you.
Yeah, it could get pretty dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. Some of these trails... They have, he probably hit a stump or hit a rock and flew
He hit
forward.
like a sandy patch, which apparently that's pretty tricky too. So.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, Palmer Park can be pretty tricky. It's got some like 4-mile like trails inside of it.
Okay, cool.
And like it's cool. I call them Lion King views because
nice.
You're elevated. Palmer Park's actually elevated, and you see the city down here, and then you can see the mountains.
Oh, that sounds pretty.
And you could see downtown, and it actually inspired me to want to start a jetpack company.
Ooh, okay. I'm on board.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I really want to innovate in that field. I think I want to build wealth so that I can build a jetpack company, essentially.
I love it.
Yeah, because there's going to be, that kind of, you need some capital for that stuff, I think.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. But yeah, I was standing on a hill and I was looking at downtown. And I was like, man, I gotta go down there later. It'd be cool if I could just fly right to it.
Seriously, that'd be sweet.
Yeah. So I drew little sketches and everything. I get ambitious about things and like, yeah.
Me too. I always have 50 ideas, and if only we could clone ourselves, right?
Yes, and that's actually something I say about my video production. You can technically kind of clone yourself. You can automate certain processes. You do clone yourself actually with some of the courses that you create. It's allowed you to create it's allowed you to take your knowledge and your expertise and to reach multiple people at multiple times, and it's still you, your personality, you. It's literally you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of passive income like that, but it's true. You create a product where you're cloning yourself and teaching knowledge, and you sell it over and over again without having to be actively involved.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the way to clone yourself.
Yeah, that was a really good segue. I gotta pat myself on the back for that. So passive income. You've written a couple books. Money Honey's one of them, right?
Yes, Money Honey and Passive Income Aggressive Retirement.
Okay. I'm a numbers person. I'm interested. How does that look like from the other end? Like you see these books that, become successful, and but you can only see it from the outside. Now I got you. I can ask you about questions about the inside. How does that look? Where do you see downloads? Do you see purchases?
Yes, both of my books have been tremendously successful. I mean, they blew me away. I really didn't have expectations when I first published Money Honey. I remember thinking to myself, if I can just help one person, that's all I want to do.
That's how you got to go about it.
Yes, right. Because I think if I had been in it for some quick money grab, people would have seen right through that, and it just wouldn't have done as well. So I wasn't even necessarily expecting for it to be an income stream, but it did. It did really well. I spent less than $600 to launch it, and most of that was on the editor. I should have spent more in other areas, but I'm happy to talk about mistakes made. Always lots of those.
Yeah.
And in the first month, I broke even. I made $600. And I would say the first year, I made about $1,000 a month from it.
Okay.
Which I think is a lot more than most authors make. A lot of authors publish a book not necessarily for the income, but for the credibility and to use it as a lead generator into other higher priced products. So the fact that I was making any money at all was a huge win. And now I have 2 best-selling books, and so on an average month, I'm probably making $5,000 in royalty income from those.
Wow. And that's people going to Amazon, people going.
Yep.
Is it in stores?
Amazon. No. So when you do Amazon exclusive, you can kind of only sell there. It's on Barnes & Noble online and Books A Million online, I think. Some online places, but not physically in stores.
Do you sell physical copies?
I do, yes.
Okay.
So on Amazon, you can get it in ebook, paperback, and audiobook. So all of the formats.
Oh, you got an audiobook. I'm so proud of you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that's a good move. I also love how audiobooks, they can give, especially, did you read it yourself?
So no.
Okay.
It was a time constraint for me, and I knew that would have been really cool. I know readers appreciate that. But I ended up hiring a narrator that I found on Upwork, and she really did a better job than I could have done. So I'm happy with that.
Some people, it's sometimes that's a better route to go because they're professional. That's what they specialize in, and they know how to, they just know how to use their voice, I guess.
Yeah, her voice is a lot more pleasing to listen to.
I'm sure yours would have been fine.
Thank you.
I love the way when authors do read their own audiobooks is that they can go off on side notes, or they can add extra value into the audiobook, so it kind of can help separate it from the other. Just give it a little extra value to incentive, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
But I actually, I'm not really a big reader, so I actually only really listen to audiobooks.
Nice.
I'm listening to this one that's amazing right now called The Go-Giver.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It's
People keep
so
recommending that.
good.
Okay, good. I need to read it.
I seen a quote by John Assaraf. He said, you need to be more of a go-giver. You need to be just as much as a go-giver as a go-getter. He said that, so I was I wanted to see if he actually said that, if that was his quote. And it was, but then the book popped up. The Go-Giver.
Okay.
The reason why I love it right now, I'm listening to it right now, I'm almost done with it. The reason why I'm loving it is because it's set up like a story. It's got all this knowledge, but it's set up like this one guy, Joe, he's teaching this guy for advice on how to be successful, essentially. And the guy said, you got to come with me and meet lunch for 5 days, or for every day of this week. And so it's every day is a different person he meets that's successful,
cool.
Via this guy, and this last person that he's gonna meet. The way they build it up, it's actually like a story. I'm excited for it. Yeah.
Well, I gotta read it. It's that reminds me of Rich Dad Poor Dad, because that's kind of a similar book in the finance world, where it's like a parable. It makes it a lot easier to read, I think.
It makes it so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a lot easier to read. I think it allows you to retain the information a lot better as well too, just because you have those. It pulls that emotion into it, I guess, and yeah,
yeah, for sure. And something I've learned just being an author is you have to have a unique value proposition, right? Because there are thousands of other personal finance books out there.
Yes.
So why would somebody buy my book over the thousands that are already out there? If you can't articulate that, it'll be really hard to make your book a success and hard to sell it. So that's something I kind of learned from the get-go. And with Money Honey in particular, the reason I wrote it is because I used to be a financial advisor. So all of my family and friends would come to me for financial advice, which I loved. And I also began to wonder, well, why aren't they reading books or learning on their own? And then I had this aha moment where I realized, oh yeah, personal finance is boring, right?
Yeah.
It's complex. For most people, it's intimidating, it's overwhelming. So I thought to myself, how can I make this topic sassy and fun and simple? And that's where the idea for Money Honey came from.
And you niched it down too.
Yeah, it's really targeted for female millennials specifically because I wanted to write it for a friend. Like if one of my girlfriends was coming to me for financial advice, that's who I was writing the book for. And because it is so unique and targeted, I think that's one of the reasons too it has done really well.
That's a very, very, very strong move on your part. A very good move on your part, I think.
Thanks. I don't think I did it intentionally, but like in hindsight, I'm like, okay, good thing I went about it that way.
Yeah, definitely. And like I think those happy accidents are always like where the special things come out. You know,
Yes.
like what's his name? You said you were reading it. Or you were writing it with someone in mind. I think that, like, I guess, I don't know if he's the king of passive income, but Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week.
I love Tim Ferriss.
Yes. When he was writing it, he was thinking of a specific friend. So it's like you were, like, right aligned with everything. You did everything just right.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, thank you. For sure. So Money Honey, what's it about? How does it flow?
So it's really about the basics of money management. So it just talks about expense tracking, budgeting, savings, debt, and investing are the main topics. And then at the end, there's a strategy for how you can sort of implement everything. So that's Money Honey. And then Passive Income, Aggressive Retirement, I wrote last year because at that point, I was starting to tell my readers, hey, I'm going to quit my job and retire this year. And of course, they're all like, what are you talking about? You're 27, right? So
Nice.
I clearly could tell there was this desire for the information and the how. And I became obsessed with passive income, which I think has really become a buzzword. So I figured I could sort of share my story, but really what the book is about is I outline 28 different passive income models. So trust me when I say there is something out there for everybody.
Yeah. 28.
Yes.
So one for every year of my life.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm 28.
Me too.
Nice. So, when's your birthday?
May 22nd.
Okay.
What about you?
March 26th.
Okay, you're slightly older.
Yeah, just a little bit.
My husband and I have the same birthday, which is
that's
such a weird
awesome.
coincidence. Yeah, but he's exactly 5 years older than me.
Okay,
so.
sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so before I got distracted by the birthday thing, I was gonna ask something and I forgot.
Passive income models. 20.
Yes. What's some of the? Can you give some?
Oh,
some
for
examples?
sure. Yeah. So I kind of break them down into categories. So first is the royalty income category. So just to back up for a sec, when I think about creating passive income, it's definitely no get rich quick scheme, right? It does take time or money to create. So if someone's thinking about what's the first step in creating passive income, I'm always telling them, well, which one do you have more of, time or money? Now, if you're anything like I was a few years ago, you would have said neither. I don't have any time. I don't have any money, right? So the second question to ask is which one's going to be easier to create? Will it be easier to free up more
What
time?
sacrifices can you make?
Exactly, or to create more money somehow. So once you have that figured out, you can kind of narrow it down which category to focus on. Royalty income is a great category for people that don't necessarily have a ton of money, but they do have time to invest. So the books that I write are a perfect example of that. It can take months of work to write a book and to do all that and to get it launched.
Gary Vaynerchuk, he says there's no such thing as passive income, but what he means by that is there's still work you got to put in.
Oh, for sure. Exactly. I kind of look at it in two stages. Stage one, it's not passive at all. You're putting all of this sweat equity into getting it going. Then once it's launched and you have it going, that's when it becomes a lot more hands off and that's when it becomes passive. Now, is anything 100% passive?
You got to keep it going.
Yeah, maybe portfolio income. And if you have enough money, you can invest it and get dividends or whatever. And that's pretty passive. The rest of the passive income streams, though, I would say you're going to have to plan on spending a couple hours a week or a few hours a month
to keep feeding
to
it.
maintain. Exactly.
Yeah, because, I mean, your podcast, if you didn't do anything, didn't go on podcast and keep talking about it. Did I say podcast? Your book. Yeah. Your book, if you didn't go on podcast or that, yes, it's doing well right now, but how long is that going to last? How do you keep that that
exactly,
flowing.
because eventually it'll drop off. So there is some minimal work to maintain it. But the way I look at it is compared to a 9-to-5 job, right, where you're working 40 hours a week, these are super passive income streams.
Oh, for sure.
So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's not like demanding your time. You get to choose like what you do. You get to choose how much time you want to allocate it to keeping it alive.
And that's the best part, is just being able to work when, where, and if you want. That's the best part about passive income.
Yes, exactly.
So I totally went off on a tangent, but yeah, royalty income is a big category for anyone that has little money but lots of time. So books, online courses. There's one really unique one that I call print on demand. And think about a physical store where you're selling physical goods like t-shirts or hats or whatever.
Yes.
You would typically have to buy a huge inventory. And so you're taking on a lot of risk, because if that inventory doesn't sell, that's a loss for you. So
if you buy 100 large shirts, but everyone only buys smalls.
Yes, huge inventory and financial risk. With print on demand, there are platforms online like Merch and Redbubble and Teespring. They have all these different products, t-shirts and tote bags and phone cases. You get designs made and you upload the designs onto their products, and then you're only paid if and when they sell. So they're made to order, they're print on demand, which means there's absolutely no inventory or financial risk for you. And you really don't need to have time. You need time to do it, but you don't really need money or knowledge in order to get that going. So I think that's a very attainable one.
For
I
sure.
personally have that business. I'm making probably
I wanted to
$200
start
bucks. Oh, you did?
I did. I wanted to start it, but then I didn't. I decided I was gonna go to custom ink, and like I shipped them all myself, and it became like I did a lot of work shipping everything, because I shipped it all individually. I sold about $1,000 in merch.
That's cool.
And it was when COVID happened. I was like, oh crap, my business, what's gonna happen? I gotta make money somehow. So I was like, I'll just see if people want to support my business. And so I was able to sell about 1,000, but I only was able to like keep 30% of it.
Okay.
Which, I mean, with the POD, the print on demand,
That's pretty typical.
It's pretty much the same, but
Yeah.
I could have just done the print on demand instead of having to do all the work. So I only got 30%. But I also did a crap ton of work on top of it.
Yeah, and that tends to be the case where it's a time versus money trade-off. With print on demand, I don't think you'll get as much as 30%. You'll probably make way less, yeah. But then you're not physically touching the products. Everything's being made and shipped without your involvement, so it's more passive. So that's a great point, because there's always those options where it's a time versus money trade-off. And another good example of that is rental income. So a lot of people ask me, well, should I do the long-term rentals, like a traditional rental where I get a year-long lease and have a tenant in there for a year? Or should I do Airbnb, short-term rental? Right. And so I'm always like, well, it's a time versus money trade-off. With a long-term tenant, you're not going to make as much money, but it'll be a lot easier to manage. With Airbnb, it is more lucrative, but you're going to have to do more work
risk
cleaning between tenants. Yeah, more risk.
And you can hire property management companies to do all that, to manage your Airbnbs.
Yes, for sure. And then if you do that, it's probably more similar to a long-term rental, because you're not going to make as much, but less work. So always the time versus money trade-off.
For sure. And a lot of people don't realize, but with Airbnbs, you can rent them out monthly. And you can even set your Airbnbs to only be monthly or 6 months at a time. It doesn't have to be like here and there if people are just, renting it out and they block it and book it out. I think
that's a good point.
I think the monthly way is the way to go with the Airbnbs, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because that way you're probably still making more, and then you're only having to worry about turnover once a month. That's really smart.
For sure. Yeah. I was staying out of Airbnbs monthly for a little bit when I first moved out here.
Oh, cool. So my husband and I are going to actually do slow travel next year. We're going to do 6 months and travel around the West U.S.
Nice.
And so I think that's what we're going to do, is monthly Airbnbs.
Just go here, set it up.
Yeah.
At first, I tried a bunch of different ones, just a few days at a time, because I hadn't really never did Airbnb before. And I wanted to make sure if I was going to pay for a month or longer, that it was a good spot, a good place, a comfortable place, a safe place. So I did my research.
Perfect. That's what I have to do.
When I moved to Colorado Springs, like I feel like I lived in more neighborhoods than most people do, like in their entire lifetime here.
Well, I prefer to do that because I want to explore and then really figure out where I would want to live in the city.
And that was Airbnb's value prop at first. Like one of their marketing campaigns was like, live like a local, is because, like you're in the neighborhood.
That's
and
cool.
Like, and then the locals were like, get out of my neighborhood.
I love it.
A little bit of backlash from that. And I think there's still constant law changes for Airbnb.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I know a little bit about Airbnb.
Yeah.
So what's another source?
Yeah, so rental income is another big one. And I mentioned earlier, my husband and I own almost 40 rental units.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's a lot. And what I mean by that is doors. So it's not, so we have 6 buildings, but almost 38 or 39 units total. And with our rental income, we're probably making 8 to 10 grand a month in profit in a normal month. But it was significantly impacted by COVID, coronavirus.
Are they Airbnbs?
No, they're long-term rentals.
Okay.
Some of them are.
So when you say
3
doors,
months.
what do you mean?
So like one building will have 12 units in it. So multifamily buildings.
Okay, sweet. Okay.
And we have a duplex, so that's 2 units. We have 3 buildings that are 10 to 12 units each. And then we have 2 single family. So a big variety.
In one city or all across the United States?
They're all in Louisville, Kentucky, which is where we moved from.
Louisville. I like how you say it.
Yes.
like you say it right.
Yeah.
Of course.
You have to act like you have marbles in your mouth is what the locals say. And just try not to pronounce it at all. And then you pronounce it correctly. That's right. Yeah. Louisville.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's where our rentals are. And I like to talk about how coronavirus has impacted our income because it's a really important topic right now. A lot of people think that having a full-time salaried position equates to income security and job security. But that's not true because if you're 100% dependent on a single source of income, there's nothing secure about that, right?
That's how I feel.
Yeah. I mean, what happens if you lose your income stream, your hours get reduced, you're impacted by something like coronavirus, then what do you do? So that's why I like to talk about income diversification, which means having multiple sources of income. That way, if and when one income stream is lost or reduced, you have other income streams keeping you afloat. So the perfect example of this is what happened with our rental income in April. So like I said, a normal month, we make 8 to 10 grand a month in profit. In April of this year, 2020, we made $1,000 in profit. So it was an enormous, it was a 90% loss of
Was
profit.
it because people moved out or they just couldn't pay the rent?
Both. Actually, an astounding number of people straight up moved out without even giving us a heads up, and they were just gone.
What, did they move into a family?
I don't know.
They just
Maybe. And then a lot of people, couldn't pay rent for a while.
Did it break contracts or anything?
Yeah, for sure.
But you couldn't really do anything because of COVID.
Right, because the eviction bans and everything. So we couldn't do anything. We had to just take a loss, essentially. But luckily for us, it wasn't a loss. I mean, there were a lot of landlords doing worse than I was. There were a lot doing better. The way I saw it, though, is if we could just break even for a few months, I would be happy with that.
And honestly, I mean, this is how I would look at it. You know, those families probably were in a worse position than you were.
Yeah, exactly. So I wasn't mad about it at all. And we didn't lose money. It's just that we weren't making as much in profit. So, but the good thing about that time, and the only reason I wasn't operating out of a place of panic and desperation is because we had all these other income streams keeping us afloat.
And that helps you so much because when you're operating out of scarcity, it not only radiates out of you, and that just makes it even harder to not only get back out of that, but everyone else feels that.
Yes.
And like it's harder to when you're operating out of that spot.
For sure. I'm so glad you made that point because it affects you emotionally. Then it affects your other businesses because you're in this negative mindset. So that's why it's important to just think of how can I start creating multiple income streams? They don't necessarily have to be passive. I think passive is the best.
Yes.
But that's, I think, one of the best ways to truly safeguard your finances.
For sure. And this podcast is developing into another income stream for me. Even though it's like currently not direct, but I've designed it like those ads at the beginning are going to help pay for the show as the show grows, as the CPMs grow, the 1,000, like every 1,000 viewers, as that grows, they can increase the value in that. But it technically, even though I don't have any advertisers right now, I still look at it as like a stream of income in a way because it helps, even though it leads to the same stream, but it helps build brand awareness, and it helps bring in business essentially for my business, even if there's not direct. But the goal is to develop it into its own self-sufficient business as well.
For sure. It's a lead generator for you, and it's going to be an eventual income stream.
Exactly. And it's, that consistency with it.
Yep.
And then so I have Behemoth Visuals. I'm working on the podcast. I guess this is one of those things where it's like a lot of time up front.
Yes.
And like it's like I have no doubts about like its potential, its direction where it's going. I feel like it will be top 100 podcast one day.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be.
Yeah. And so I just have those two. That's all really.
Yeah.
And I remember last year when I first started the business, because I came out here not having any family, not having any friends, starting a business full time for the first time ever. I had just like found mentors that really helped me learn this. I remember every weekend I'd climb up the incline and I'd carry a cooler full of popsicles and dry ice, and I would do a pay what you can model, and like that was a somewhat a stream of income, I guess you could say.
That is so cool. I just did the incline the first time a week and a half ago.
Okay.
I didn't even know if I was going to be able to finish it,
For
but
sure.
I kicked butt, finished in 65 minutes. I was very proud of that
First time, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think the average for like, just because there's a lot of, I guess, unfit people that do it.
Yeah, or people from out of town that aren't used to the
or maybe
altitude.
maybe from like all the way from sea level. A lot of people.
Yeah.
I think the average is like an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thank you for saying. I feel even better now.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know if that's good.
I don't remember the fastest one, but it's anywhere from, I think it's,
I thought it was like 17 minutes.
yeah,
or
I was about to say
something.
15, in between 15 to 30. Yeah,
Yeah,
somewhere in
that's
there.
insane.
Yeah. I don't know, like they were running the whole way up it, dude. Like,
Yeah.
what? Just walking up the steps, about like 200 steps in it, my heart's beating.
Right. The hardest part is my lungs, and
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah. it can be dangerous. There's warning signs at the bottom of it saying like, hey, people have fainted, people have died on this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
it's
those are
hard.
people probably with health conditions
Yeah,
that
for
probably
sure.
shouldn't have been doing it.
But that's so cool that you did the popsicles. It's such a great example of just looking around and thinking of how can I bring value in this situation.
Yeah.
And you can monetize anything.
For
I
sure.
mean, you can make money any way. There's so many. Once you start looking for it too, and you start training your mind to look for opportunities,
Yes.
you'll just come up with so many ideas, more than you can do.
That's why my mentor told me, like, he's like, so if you like this city, why don't you move out here, do a 30-day challenge and go full time? He said that 30-day challenge because that's when you put yourself in that survival mind state. I'm not saying that's a good place to be consistently, but it helped open my mind is what it did. Helped me like, okay, I have to make it.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a good, I mean, that can be very motivating. It's kind of forcing your own hand, not really giving yourself an option.
Yeah.
And so you're forced to either make it happen or not.
Yeah, and that resistance is a lot of reason why people who want to start a business never do.
Yeah.
Because they're at their job and they're like, I don't know, or they doubt themselves and like they just stay in that
Yes,
cycle.
for sure. I feel like somebody asked me recently, what do I think is the difference between people who are, financially successful versus people who can't quite get there? And I think the difference is the ability to execute. Right, because knowledge is nothing without execution.
Yes.
We all generally
Ideas
have
are
the
easy,
knowledge.
execution is hard. That's a Gary Vaynerchuk
Yeah.
quote.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, because we all generally know, invest your money, pay off debt, save more money. So why aren't we doing it?
You can know how to get abs all you want, but you got to do the sit-ups.
Yeah, you're right. You have to take the action. It's
Yeah.
really because self-discipline is so hard. It's hard to just make yourself do those things and overcome the resistance.
It can be scary. And I got to hit this button real quick.
Okay.
We're already at 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh, that went by so fast. You're kidding.
I got a little timer on this thing too. So
Okay, cool.
I can keep track of things. So if you see me looking down, I'm not trying to like.
You're good.
Some
I
people think
figured
I'm
it was
looking at the
coming
time.
up.
Yeah,
No.
I'm looking at the time. Let's get this over with. Come on.
Yeah, so I think that's really all I was going to say.
Okay.
That knowledge, you have to execute in order to get anywhere. I mean, you
For
have
sure.
to move past consumption of knowledge and then actually take the first step.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I had to double check.
I'm glad you did. Better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah. Usually I don't double check it, and I'm good usually, but for some reason I had a bad feeling about that.
Yeah.
one. But it was going, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, the whole time driving down here, I was like, did I leave the fireplace on? I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I don't think I did, but I'm like,
One time when I was a teenager, I was boiling some eggs, and we went somewhere to go eat, and I forgot. I came back, the eggs were exploded everywhere, dude.
oh my God. Oh no.
Yeah, at least it didn't burn the house down. Though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I didn't even know I still had that story in my head. It's funny how we archive things and certain like thoughts or words can like unpack it. You know how like you take a file and you can compress it down to things on the computer?
Yeah.
It's like I feel like that's how our brains work, and like it's there, these thoughts are there, but we just have to unlock them.
That's a
Those
really
memories.
interesting analogy. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, thank you.
Huh.
I'm good with analogies, I
You
just
are.
realized.
Yeah.
Last yesterday's episode, we were talking about, I did a microphone analogy to like how, I could do it again, I guess.
Yeah.
Microphones have essentially, the technology hasn't really advanced. They got good and they stayed good since like the 60s, and like there's certain like, you know, things and features that they can add to them. But some of the best mics, like some of the most expensive mics, have been the exact same mics since the 60s. Wow. Like if you want like, you know, certain sounds, like certain like good stuff, but it's really about the execution. It's about not just the execution, but the operator. Who really innovates on the craft, you know, essentially.
True.
Yeah.
That's a good, you are good at analogies.
Thank you. I should write a book.
You should write a book. Everyone should write a book.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh. I think the way I would have to write a book is the way Gary Vaynerchuk did. He didn't write any of his books. He had someone who he fed the ideas to, and then they wrote it.
So a ghostwriter.
I guess that's what they call it.
Yeah.
A ghostwriter, for some reason, I feel like ghostwriter means that they wrote everything.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Most ghostwriters I know take somebody's thoughts or outline or content and just packages it into a book.
A consumable product.
Yes.
Because I would have so many grammar errors. I mean, I'm from Missouri where Mark Twain was, and he actually, I think, was the first person to like innovate on like actually like spelling things wrong, and like, but he did it on purpose. Like, you know, he didn't spell it wrong. He spelled it how it sounded.
Okay.
And, you know, like, I think that's one of the things he was known for was like breaking away from the strict English structure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I feel like ghostwriters are a great option because not everyone sees themselves as a strong writer or can, you know, write well. And I truly think everyone has a book in them. Everyone has a unique gift or something they can teach and share.
I think
with
everyone
the
has a
world.
course in them.
And a course, yeah. I mean, because we all have a specific knowledge that's unique to our own personal experiences.
What if you're really good at making ramen noodles?
And then you can write a book about it. Yeah, but a ghostwriter is a great option.
Yeah,
to get that
for sure.
to fruition.
Yeah. I definitely would. I want to make that happen.
Cool.
That'd be fun. Yeah. I bring Gary Vaynerchuk up a lot because he's been a big influence on me. He influenced this podcast. I'm pretty sure he influenced me to go and start my business. So I give him, I shout him out all the time.
Aww.
And I try actually for like 10 or 15 episodes in a row, I was intentionally not saying his name just because I was like, I don't want to like overdo that and, you know, like become annoying with it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, when someone inspires you in that way, I think it's almost your duty to share that so somebody else can get the same message, you know?
For sure. I actually literally just made a meme last night where it was a meme he made, but I ripped it off and to put my own spin on it. I mean, that's the whole reason why memes exist.
That's how memes work.
Yeah, that's how memes work. But then I still credited him because he made the idea for that.
Yeah, I mean, we all have mentors and people that help us along the way. And like for me, one of mine is Honore Corder, and she is she partnered with Hal Elrod to expand his Miracle Morning series books. He's like an internationally best-selling author. She's written over 50 books.
Okay.
And one of my issues in like along my journey is that I'm so frugal sometimes that I'm too cheap, right? Like I cut corners. I'm not willing to invest in myself. And I finally realized I was holding myself back because there's only so much I can do alone. I really need to learn from experts and from people who are further along than me. So I finally started working with Honore, and my business has truly expanded and taken off this year. She basically works with authors who want to create 6-figure income streams from their books.
Nice.
So had to give her a shout out too, because she's amazing. She has so many great programs and resources for people.
Yeah. And like, I think mentors are huge. I literally, you know, I don't think I would be able to start my video production business without hiring mentors.
Yes.
Like I actually spent more money than I had ever on one thing, and it was for myself essentially, and it was like the biggest amount of money I ever spent. I was like, I don't know if I should do this, but I actually then I convinced myself like I have to do it. I have to pull the freaking trigger.
Right, and that was the same for me. I definitely started feeling alone and sort of isolated and hitting a wall. Like, where do I go from here? How do I scale my business? And then I realized if I really wanted to grow, then I needed to surround myself with people who were already 10 steps ahead of me.
Exactly.
Because that's the only way I'm going to get there. So once I did that, my business took off.
For sure, exactly. Because you extract things from those people, and like my mentor told me is like you need to have a good balance of people who are ahead of you, people who are at the same level, and people who are behind with you, so you can teach them,
so that you can mentor them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so let's go back a little bit before the books, before the passive income. How did you develop that?
So I became a financial advisor. That was my first job out of college. And I thought it was going to be a perfect fit, but it turns out I don't love sales.
Okay.
And I couldn't, and that's really what you're doing when you start out as a financial advisor is you're prospecting the first 5 or 10 years.
For sure.
I just couldn't see myself doing that, but I still wanted to figure out a way I could add value and help people with finances because I was very passionate about it. Now with the passive income and how I really got into wanting to retire early, there were several reasons for that. First of all, I grew up in a really wealthy county. And just to give you some context, there were kids in my high school that got brand new BMW convertibles when they turned 16.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
Very unrealistic bubble to grow up in.
Yeah.
Not that I knew that at the time. I thought that was normal.
For sure.
And so my family, we were always on a strict budget. We weren't like operating that way. We were not going on family trips, let alone even going out to eat at restaurants. So at a young age, I felt like I didn't fit in. And that's not the way you want to feel in middle school and in high school.
For sure.
I remember thinking to myself at some point that I don't want to end up like everyone I see that's struggling with money, right? I don't want to have to operate on a strict budget for the rest of my life or borrow money from family and friends to make it to my next paycheck. I wanted to be different. And what I realized in high school is that what I did then would either set me up for wealth or for poverty. So I started taking things very seriously. I was already reading books, but I started reading more books about finance, real estate investing, stock market, all of that. And that's where my passion started. Yeah, I was a super nerd. Okay. I was a finance nerd and I still am proud of it.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I definitely had some job experiences where I realized this is not how I want to live my life. I worked for one woman who was just so emotionally abusive. She made her employees cry regularly, including me. So condescending and demeaning and just truly mean. So one of these times when she made me cry, I remember going into the bathroom and looking at myself and thinking, I am never going to allow an employer to treat me that way again. And I'm never going to feel trapped in a job just because of money. I need to find a way to become financially independent and work for myself, essentially. And I had another job experience later where I was going into the office from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. I just liked to go in early and leave early to avoid rush hour. That's all.
Okay.
And I had this manager.
You're like, I wasn't trying to be a grinder. I don't like rush hour.
Yeah, I just wanted to like avoid traffic.
Yeah.
And then my manager took me aside one time and she was like, Rachel, I think you're creating the wrong perceptions by leaving a half hour early every day. And it didn't matter that I was getting a half hour in early in the morning.
Wow, they didn't even see that.
Right. She was just like, you need to be staying till 5. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Not only am I getting all of my work done and then some, I'm truly an above and beyond employee. It is. It was micromanaging. And I was like, the idea of getting paid for hours put in rather than output, I don't like that. It didn't make sense to me. So, and I think
Gen Z is realizing that more than any
I think you're
generation.
right. Yeah. And just the realization too, that I didn't want to be stuck working in a cubicle in Louisville, Kentucky the rest of my life. I wanted to have freedom of time and freedom of location. So then I started in 2017 was the year that I started investing in rental properties. I published my first book. We have other passive income streams now. And it took us under 3 years to go from $0 a month in passive income to now 15 grand a month. And I always,
how long?
Under 3 years.
Under 3. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So people, a lot of people say it's too late for me to do this. If someone's in their 40s or 50s, it's too late for me. What's the point? You can still achieve so much just within a few years if you really dedicate yourself to it.
Oh, for sure.
I always like to share that. And I always like to clarify because I get this question a lot, Andrew, and people will ask me, are you a trust fund baby? Like what financial help did you get along the way? No, I'm not a trust fund baby. And in fact, I never made 6 figures in a job or in a career. My first job out of college, I was making $36,000. Yeah. I just was able to sacrifice a lot. I saved, I scrimped and
educate yourself.
Yeah, I was super frugal. And then, I gave up a lot of fun experiences in my early 20s because I was working. I was working on building my businesses and writing my book. And that's the sacrifice it takes to go from then to now in such a short period of time.
Okay, so going through that, you did a good job making that happen, but I'm sure there was some struggles.
Oh gosh.
What do you think some of the, or what would you say some of those struggles
I
are?
could go for hours talking about struggles, mistakes I made,
Okay.
embarrassing things that happened. One of them in terms of writing my book, when I first started writing Money Honey, it was very exciting. The words just poured out of me. But 4 months in, I quit writing the book. By then I had done a complete mental 180 and I was filled with self-doubt. I was telling myself things like, Rachel, who do you think you are?
Imposter syndrome.
Right. Who do you think you are to write a book on finance? You're a young woman. Who's going to listen to you? Your writing is crap. This is going to be embarrassing. So super nice to myself. But yeah, I mean, that's the things I was thinking. And I quit writing it. I had no intention of ever picking it back up again. And it wasn't until I had lunch with a friend and I confessed to her my book idea and what I was doing. And she said, Rachel, you have to finish this. You have to finish what you set out to do. You're really onto something here. And she gave me just the encouragement I needed to pick it back up and go through with publishing it.
This was 3 years ago?
This was 3 years ago. And you're right, it was the imposter syndrome. I didn't know at the time what it was called, but that's exactly what it is, where you feel like a fraud and you feel like you're not good enough. And thank goodness I went through with publishing it, though, because it has gone on to impact the lives of thousands of people. I have over 700 reviews on Amazon now. So imagine, yeah. And I don't say that to brag, but like, imagine if I hadn't written that. And there's people that could have been helped that hadn't been helped. And I share that because
people only write reviews when they're compelled and when they're passionate.
Yeah. And you never know the way you can impact another person and the way your knowledge and your writing can make a difference in the world. So don't let that imposter syndrome stop you, because you can be really doing a good thing and changing people's lives.
Yes, that's awesome.
Thank you.
So question just left my mind. Oh well.
I have plenty more mistakes if you want me to share them.
Go ahead. Yeah. What's another one?
Okay, so funny story about real estate investing. And it was not funny at the time, but it is funny now. We can laugh about it. But of course, with real estate investing, I always tell people, if you really want it to be passive, you have to hire a property manager, because chances are none of us want to quit our full-time jobs to become a full-time landlord. So you really need to have that expense built in from the beginning. So Andrew and I always knew, my husband's name is Andrew.
Okay.
Yeah. So we always knew we were going to hire a property manager, and it came time to do that. I was writing books. We were managing on our own. We were still working full-time. We just couldn't do it on ourselves anymore. So we hired a property manager, and we had these these people that were working for us already. It was a couple, a husband and wife. They'd been doing things like cleaning common areas, doing some maintenance, doing the lawn care. They were the hardest working individuals I had ever met.
Nice.
They always went above and beyond. So we thought to ourselves, what if we hire them, make them employees of our company? That way we can probably save a little bit of money and we can be more hands-on with the way that they're managing our properties. So we thought we could hire them as property managers. Okay, that's the big mistake that we made.
Okay.
Because it started out fine. They did a great job. And then fast forward about 6 months in, my husband went to pick up the rent from our lock boxes on site one Saturday. He noticed there was a lot of rent missing. And it wasn't just the normal tenant paying late. It was a significant chunk. So we're calling our employees, do you know what's going on? And they were totally MIA, and we never heard from them again. It turns out that they stole $6,000 in rental income that weekend, and that they had gone on drugs. And that's why. And they had been squatting in vacant rooms and units in our properties for almost a year.
Oh, wow.
So complete violation of trust. I mean, it was awful at the time, of course. I can laugh about it now, but it's almost embarrassing.
How was that a mistake?
So the moral of the story is that's not the place to cut corners and be cheap. And I told you, like, that's one of my flaws.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm too frugal in some ways. And like,
if you would have hired a company, that wouldn't happen because they're liable for that.
Yes, exactly. So you have to, this isn't the place to be cheap, right? You need to hire a qualified, licensed, bonded, insured property management company, because if they had done that and their employee had done that to us, like you said, they would have been liable for the damages, not us.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to share. It's embarrassing that we even made that rookie mistake in the first place.
For sure.
But I like to share the story so others can learn from my mistakes.
And that's how you learn.
That is.
You know?
And anytime something like that happens, it was awful at first, and it took me a long time to shift my mindset around it and kind of reframe my thoughts. But now the way I look at it is, look, you paid $6,000 to learn a very important lesson.
Exactly.
Right? That was a tuition payment.
Yeah.
I'm never going to make that same mistake
Some people
again.
pay that just to go to an event.
Yeah, right. So
to learn.
in the long term, it wasn't a big deal. And if I had not been so cheap in the beginning, it never would have happened. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you had one piece of quick advice for someone, like some financial advice, what would you give them? And I know everyone's situation is different. What's the main thing that you see that you think could be the most helpful?
For sure. So it's a very simple tip and it's very basic, but it makes a world of difference. And if you're just starting out with your finances and you don't know what to do, what you're going to want to do is just track your expenses. Don't even worry about a budget yet. Just track your spending for 30 days. It will be the most eye-opening exercise you do.
30 days. Okay.
30 days. So this is super embarrassing also. And I feel like I shouldn't admit this because I'm supposed to be a finance guru, right? But the first month my husband and I did this, we realized we were spending over $900 per month on groceries. Like
just two people.
Food, for, not even restaurants, just groceries for two people.
Not even restaurants.
Right.
Okay.
That is insane, right? I mean, that's more than some people's mortgage or rent payment.
For
so
sure.
we were like, oh my goodness, had no idea. And of course, that was a huge opportunity where we were like, okay, we need to cut this back and really put a budget into place. And that's what will happen is you'll see your spending categories and you'll think, wow, I had no clue. I got to cut that back. And you'll naturally want to put a budget into place from there. So I would say that's the number one tip.
And even if you feel like you know, like, oh, I go here, I go this.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah. You don't know. Trust me.
yeah, for sure. I believe it. Like,
yeah.
I've been meaning to do that, but I haven't. I didn't think about doing it for 30 days straight, though. I like challenges like that. So.
Yeah, right. And even before 30 days, you'll start being like, oh, gosh, I need to cut back here. But a really helpful app for doing this is Mint. Have you heard of Mint?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So it's a free website and platform, and you link your bank and your credit cards and your debit cards, and it pulls all of your transactions into one centralized location. So that makes it very easy to see where your money is going. And it's totally free to use. So I always recommend that for someone starting out.
For sure. I actually recently just had an idea to do that with my time.
Yes, like a time audit.
A time to budget it, because time's just as important. I mean, time and money are actually like, they're the same thing.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
When I feel like I'm just overwhelmed and stressed and I don't know where my time is going.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'll do. This sounds super tedious, but literally I will track my time in 15-minute intervals for 2 straight days.
That's good.
And then I'll sort of categorize and add it all up. I am always blown away by the amount of time I spend watching TV and on social media.
Yeah, that's one of my big things. I do spend a lot of time on that, but I think also on like the other end of that, sometimes I feel like I don't do enough work, or if I'm being too lazy. But then I was like, Andrew, you just like spent 12 hours like, or whatever, doing a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to actually track it though, because I want to make sure 15-minute intervals is important, because like, yes, maybe I worked for 8 hours doing some editing or doing a podcast or whatever, but was there like 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, walking to my car, like
10 minutes on social media. If 5 times a day, that adds up.
Yeah, it really does add up. So it's like, was I really working for 8 hours?
Right. Yeah. I need to do it too. We should do it together and hold each other accountable.
I love that. Yeah. That's
Perfect.
cool. We'll make that happen.
Awesome.
So anything particular you'd like to promote today?
I'll just tell everyone you can buy my books, Money Honey and Passive Income Aggressive Retirement, on Amazon. They're an ebook, paperback, and audio. And then you can find me on Instagram at Money Honey Rachel. I like to share memes. And then what I'd love to do for your listeners, Andrew, is if anyone wants to download my Passive Income Starter Kit, I will give that for free. So if you want to download that, you can go to moneyhoneyrachel.com/bonus.
Bonus. Nice.
Bonus.
Okay. I knew that because I did some research right before you came on the show, and I went to your Instagram, went to that link, and I seen that. I didn't put the information in yet, but I want to do that. I'm gonna get the audiobook. I can't wait to listen to it.
Thank you.
I also there's a service called Scribd or Scribd.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Is your book on there?
No, but I've heard that it's a really cool platform.
It's like Netflix for audiobooks.
Okay.
It also has books, and it also has documents too.
Yeah.
Written books, and I use it. That's where I listen to a lot of my audiobooks. You pay like $8 a month.
Yeah.
And like you have access to some of like the biggest books, and they shuffle them out kind of like how Netflix does too. So it's like I don't know if Rich Dad Poor Dad's still on there, but it was on there a few months ago, and I listened to it for the first time because I know there's a lot. I know I've actually learned like I'm just telling myself this, and that's why I don't read, because I know I've met some other people who are just as slow as reading at me, and they still do it, and they still get lots of books done. I know someone who's like dyslexic and, still has read like 60 books this year.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's like, I really have no excuse.
Yeah.
But I just don't enjoy it. I feel like it's time consuming.
Yeah.
There's one book that I have read all the way through. I mean, there's probably a few, but
yeah.
one that really stood out was Sam Walton's autobiography. It was written in 1992.
Oh.
He had someone else write it as he was on his deathbed, I think.
Wow, I'd never even heard of that. I'll have to look
so
that
good.
up.
Like,
okay.
Because for like 2 decades, his family was the richest family in the world.
Yeah.
Like he was doing something right.
Yeah, seriously.
And I found out he like grew up like a few hours away from where I lived in Missouri.
Cool.
Like I think he went to high school in Springfield, Missouri, and then I found out why he started his business, and then how he started thinking about, like, he was one of the first people, like, how they have those big inventories on the outside of just like piles of like one product.
Yeah.
That was a marketing move. And it was he innovated. He was the one that really did that. Like they would buy like 1,000 sandals and like they throw it on one spot, and it has some kind of psychological effect on you. Like,
okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I gotta add these to my reading list. Buying books is my vice.
Okay.
Like
Go Giver.
Yeah, Go Giver and Sam Walton
autobiography, Made in USA or something like that.
Okay.
And then there's one that I read just before Go Giver. It's like a 3-hour book. It might not be for you because it's about selling.
Okay.
But it might be for you.
I read everything.
It's really cool because it really frames it in like a way that's designed for value, than like manipulative tactics. And it's called Spin Selling, and it's a 3-hour book. I call books by hours because I listen to them.
I love it.
It's hours, not pages for me.
Yeah. Okay. I'll look that one up too.
How long is your book?
Well, I don't know. I think Money Honey is 5 hours.
Okay, sweet.
And it's like almost 200 pages.
Okay.
And then Passive Income, I forget the time, but it's maybe 270 pages. I should know these things, but I don't.
Do they both have audio versions?
Yeah, they both are on Audible. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to dive into those. As soon as I finish Go Giver, I think I'm gonna go to that.
Oh, thank you.
Go to Money Honey.
You'll have to let me know what you think.
Yes, I will. Leave a review too.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And so I guess that wraps up this episode. Has been an amazing episode. I think it's going to provide a lot of value. And the goal of this show is to get people in the community, in the business community, or just in the Colorado Springs community on this show. But you don't have to be in the Colorado Springs community. The goal is, but you do have to come to Colorado Springs to be on the show. The goal is to provide value. What can you provide? What value can you provide for our community, essentially? And that's the goal. That's the goal. Essentially, I think it'll expand, but that's the theme of being in Colorado Springs is never going to leave. Like, if Oprah wants to come on the show, I'm like, you got to fly out here, Oprah.
Come out here, Oprah.
Exactly.
Well, I love what you're doing, and thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So this has been the COS Business Podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one.